Thank you everyone for attending our webinar today titled What You Need to Know About Social Security Benefits. My name is Annie Randolph and I'm a Neuro Resource Facilitator with the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa, and we're very excited to share this webinar with you today. A couple of housekeeping things for you all to know. As you will see on your GoToWebinar control panel, you have two options for listening today, mic and speakers or telephone. So if you are having trouble listening with either option, please feel free to try and switch to the other option to see if that helps. We will also be recording this webinar today and we'll have it archived on our YouTube page in the coming days, so please feel free to look there after the session. Also, we'll have time at the end of the session with Cory for any questions you may have for him, so please feel free to type in your questions into the question box as you think of them during the webinar, and we will respond to them in the order they appeared at the end of the session. No CEUs will be provided for this webinar. However, a certificate of attendance will be sent to all attendees following the session through your email. So please be free or feel free to check there for that certificate. Also, we will have attached the PowerPoints for the webinar in the handouts portion of your control panel, so you can print them off. Now I will go ahead and I would like to introduce our guest speaker today. Cory Luedeman has been a Social Security disability attorney since 2000. In that time, he has worked tirelessly to help Iowans with disabilities who have been denied disability benefits appeal their denial and get the benefits they deserve. After 13 years of work at Iowa Legal Aid, Cory moved into private practice and continues his work for Iowans with disabilities. At RSH Legal, Cory leads the Social Security Disability team in helping those who need help appealing their Social Security claim. He serves clients statewide. Cory also serves as a member of the Linn County Continuum of Care and Policy Council. This council works with a variety of community leaders to help prevent housing and hunger issues in Linn County. Thank you all for participating today, and I will go ahead and let Cory get started. Thank you, Cory.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And as was said, I really have focused a lot on my career with helping those that are disadvantaged and those who are more susceptible to being taken advantage of by others. And so when I left Iowa Legal Aid, I was looking for an opportunity to still help the same clientele, and I was able to do so. And so I'm looking forward to sharing information with you, and hopefully it will help you personally or a friend or loved one to get through a difficult time if Social Security has denied someone benefits. And so at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and go through the slides. I'm not going to read them word for word. I would ask that you go ahead and download the PDF file and take a look at it. I want to use this time to be able to provide additional information to you that might not be contained on the slides as well. Of course, I'll do just to get the general overview of this process, because it is a frustrating process for many folks in the world that are trying, or in the United States, I should say, trying to get disability benefits. So at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and go through this. Whether or not you apply for disability is really a big step in somebody's life, and it's a big decision. If you've had a traumatic brain injury or a loved one that has, you might not know right away whether or not that person should be applying for disability. You don't know whether or not they're going to heal up very quickly or not. And we hope for the best, but if not, then if you haven't healed, then you want to have this option open. If you have a work history and you've been able to work in your life within the past 10 years in particularly, when you're taking money out of your check, when the government does, and paying it to that guy named FICA, well, that goes towards, some of that money goes towards getting you into this, it's called an insured status. And when you've got that insured status, that means it has nothing to do with health insurance. It has everything to do with insurance as far as disability insurance benefits through Social Security Administration. And in order to be able to draw off of that money you've paid in over the years, you need to be able to be found disabled by Social Security within essentially 5 years of when you stopped working, but prior to your it's called date last insured for Social Security disability insurance benefits. That's on the SSD program, also known as Title II benefits if you're talking jargon to Social Security. There's another program, it's called SSI Benefits, Supplemental Security Income, and that's SSI is Title 16 benefits. Now there is also another type of Title II benefits that are based off of a parent's work history, and those are basically disabled child benefits. And if someone is found disabled effective prior to the age of 22, then if they have a parent who is disabled or drawing their retirement, that child could, if found disabled by Social Security, make a claim for disability benefits off of the parent's record of work, and it wouldn't reduce the mom or dad's benefits on a monthly basis. It has no effect upon them whatsoever. And so if you would be entitled to more money off of your own work history or off of your parents' work history if you've been found disabled effective prior to the age of 22, or if you would be entitled to more money through SSI, then Social Security, as long as you're determined disabled, will find, well, they will give you the one that they're supposed to give you, the one that that would get you in the best financial position. Of those programs, I must say that if you're eligible for SSD, that would be the better of the programs, and that's the Title II, whether that's off of your own work history or off of your parents' work history. Okay, so I'm going to go through this slide, and as I said already, if you're disabled, they look at your work history. If you've worked within the last 5 years, then SSDI may very well be for you. Or if you've got severe financial need, we're talking about disabled plus having less than $2,000 in assets. This is the SSI program, okay? And then you have very low household income, then you may very well be eligible for SSI. But I must tell you that SSI, if you were to pick up more than $20 worth of pop cans in a month, Social Security wants to know about it. If somebody is providing you food, clothing, or shelter, Social Security wants to know about it, because then they reduce the amount of SSI that you'd be eligible for in a month. And right currently, the amount for SSI, the maximum is $733 a month. And then they take a fair market value, if you will, of the food, clothing, shelter, and reduce you down somewhere. The max you could get was somewhere, well, let me restate that. You get subtracted off for that amount, and it does change, but you could get probably between $300 and $400 a month is all on SSI if somebody is providing you food, clothing, and shelter, and there's not an agreement for you to pay them back. And otherwise, the government will just keep that difference in money. And so instead of $733, you'll get whatever that reduced amount is on that. Okay. So what does disabled mean by Social Security? Well, disabled is what I'd like to call a loaded word, and it doesn't have a simple definition. In particular, if you have to suffer from a medical condition or multiple medical conditions, your condition causes the significant physical or mental limitations, or both, and those conditions are expected to last for a year or longer. However, I'm going to throw in a caveat here, a little switch on you, in that if you have a TBI they look at to see if those limitations that you have lasted for at least 3 months. So it's possible that you could, if you have a TBI, that you could in fact draw disability if you've had that less than a year. It is possible to get disability even though that is the case. All right. Because of your limitations, you can't do any of the work that you've done in the last 15 years. That's called your past relevant work. In Social Security's definition of disability, what it means to be disabled, they determine whether or not you are currently working and earning a certain amount of money, and then they say, all right, if you're not able to do that, do you have severe health conditions? Okay, if the answer to that is yes, they then ask, well, do you meet or equal one of their listed impairments? And Social Security has in their book on listed impairments, there is a specific one for traumatic brain injuries. It's listing 11.18, and that one applies towards if you only have basically physical issues going on. It's 11.18A, and then or 11.18B has if you have mental health issues as well that are going on, for instance, with understanding, remembering, and applying information, interacting with others, concentrating, maintaining pace, and adapting or managing yourself. Those added together, they look at for the TBI specifically. Now, if you don't have any physical problems after the brain injury, you can have only mental health issues going on, such as neurocognitive disorders. Basically, that you've had a significant decline from a prior level of functioning in a certain cognitive area that they recognize that causes you again to have severe problems with understanding, interacting with others, concentrating, adapting, or managing yourself. Or if it's lasted for at least a couple of years on the neurocognitive disorder, that's listing 12.02. So at any rate, there's a couple of different listings then that could apply in your situation. Now, if you're still working, there can be some issues that are going on that would not necessarily prohibit you from being able to do some work, and that's okay. As a general rule, if you're trying to work and you're earning pre-tax, so I'm not talking take-home, I'm talking pre-tax, less than $1,000 a month generally. It changes yearly. It goes up a little bit. Right now, I believe that the amount is a little over $1,100 a month pre-tax that you can earn and still be potentially determined disabled by Social Security. Then that may not count against you. Now, you could be receiving FMLA or short-term disability or long-term disability, and those might not count against you as far as Title II benefits or what's the SSDI. But again, as I said earlier, if you've got more than $20 coming in a month, basically at picking up pop cans or whatever it is, it can be counted against you in determining your SSI too. Now, you might try to work, and then it might only last for a few months. Then that wouldn't count against you, depending upon how much that you earned. You could also work under special accommodations if some employers being nice and saying, okay, well, you don't have to do all this, but you can do some of the work that we require. Hey, great. Then that can also be, they can basically cut it a break, if you will, and not count it against you. All right. Does age matter? Unfortunately, yes, it does. As I said earlier, if you're under the age of 22, and you've had the traumatic brain injury, or you had a loved one that does, well, then that's very important in that that person may be able to make a claim for disability benefits um, off of a parent's record if that parent is receiving SSD or retirement benefits at this time. Now, if you are over the age of 50 and have physical limitations that are called exertional limitations, like problems with lifting, standing, walking, and sitting, then that can be to your advantage because there's these thing called the grids that kick in with someone who has physical issues. So if you've had a traumatic brain injury and you have the disorganization of motor function that it doesn't necessarily satisfy Social Security's listing that I mentioned earlier, the 11.18, but you still have problems physically, then at the according to the grid, if you're age 50 or over, depending upon how much you're limited, you might qualify for disability under the grid rule. So that can be really useful in cases. All right. So there are certain financial benefits that you could gain once you are approved for benefits. You get monthly benefits, and then you can also get a lump sum back pay. Let me get this all. I want to get it all, this whole screen show. Well, maybe, nope, let me go back here. I'm going to go back another one. All right. So if you have monthly benefits, you can get Social Security disability insurance benefits. It's based off of your earnings history or potentially off of your parents if you're under the age of 22 when you're determined disabled. And then those benefits, they can pay you up to 1 year prior to filing. There is pending legislation that is in Congress that they want to basically cut Social Security disability benefits. In the president's new budget, he put in there that he wanted to eliminate you being able to go back in time up to a year before you filed. He wanted to cut it down to 6 months. And then they also want to change rules, other rules in Social Security and supplemental security income benefits and Social Security disability insurance benefits. And unfortunately, even though the news might say that that's not going to affect Social Security, the changes that have been proposed in the budget, unfortunately, I've got to tell you that it might. And so everything I'm telling you today is subject to change because, unfortunately, these programs that are out there to help folks might be getting changed. And I hope that they're not. But at any rate, because it's hard enough to get approved. Now, SSI is roughly, as I said earlier, about $730 a month. Now, if you're approved for SSI, it doesn't go back in time before you applied. It can only go forward from when you applied going forward for your lump sum back pay. That's a key difference between it and the SSD program. Now, SSI benefits, as I said earlier, if you're getting basically more than $20 a month in whatever source, it can be reduced and taken into account to reduce your monthly benefit from the $733. Nobody's getting rich on $733 a month as it is, and I tell you, with SSI, as long as you're getting at least $1 of SSI a month, at the way the law is currently written, you get Medicaid coverage, federal Medicaid, okay, and that's good. You can work part-time and get on SSI. They have a complex formula of how they figure that in. If you're working part-time, like they don't count the first $65 a month that you earn, and these are all gross earnings, not net, okay? So it's all pre-tax dollars. And so they don't count your first $65, and then if you get and then if you earn more than $65, they go ahead and reduce your SSI that they would owe you by $1 for every $2 after that you earn. So it gets to be complicated, the rules are. And as I said earlier, if you get some sort of in-kind income, such as food, clothing, or shelter, Social Security will use that as well and potentially reduce you substantially. SSD benefits are reduced for work comp. And I will also say another thing. If you worked for the government in your life and you did not have Social Security taxes withheld, that can the receipt of Social Security disability benefits can reduce those your monthly government pension, but it doesn't technically reduce your SSD benefits. But just so you know, there is a reduction that they could figure in. Like, for instance, if you work for the post office and then you were drawing disability from the post office, they do some magic math also to kind of offset some stuff that way. Okay. As I said about your lump sum back pay, I already talked about all that, so I'm going to whip through there. So how do you apply for disability? Well, you can apply online for Social Security disability insurance benefits, SSDI or the Title II, but you cannot apply online for SSI currently. You got to make a phone call or an appointment to do an initial application with Social Security in order to apply for SSI benefits. The date that you became disabled is called your onset date. That means you can tell them that you became disabled going back, if you had a traumatic brain injury, the date of the traumatic brain injury. Or if you had the traumatic brain injury and then you didn't apply for benefits right away because, well, you were waiting, you were hoping you were going to get better, and you did get a little bit better, you went back to work, but for a little while, you could change that date. I mean, a lot of things can go through here to change that date, and you can change it later. You're not locked in to the Social Security onset date that you initially did. All right? Let's see here. As I said earlier, you can complete the application online. You can call the office for a phone interview. You can make an appointment with the office. We have a booklet that we give out to folks that lists the local office phone numbers and whatnot. So after you apply for benefits, Social Security is supposed to order your medical records, and then you have to fill out some questionnaires. They might send you to see one of their doctors, and then within a few months you get a decision. If you have the traumatic brain injury and they tell you that, oh, well, it's been 3 months, but we think you're going to get better within the next 3 months, so we'll take a look at you later, you must still appeal. Okay, you have 60 days to file an appeal of a denial notice, and I urge you to keep those claims alive and going. I personally do not generally get involved in cases at the initial application level, because if Social Security is going to approve you and you are able to complete the application with the help of a friend, loved one, or a service provider, then why should you have to pay an attorney, is my view on that. And maybe that comes from my days at Iowa Legal Aid and whatnot, but if your condition is so severe that you don't even have to fight Social Security to get your benefits, then why would you need me, to be quite honest about it? And that's just the way that I feel. And as I said earlier, there's very few things that you can do at an initial application that can't be changed later on, for instance, about that onset date. So if you did something, and you feel as if you made a mistake or something, believe me, things can be changed after the initial application. Most things definitely can be rectified, if you will, if you're worried about it. All right, so it takes them 2 to 4 months for initial application. If they deny you, which they're denying, at this point, I am guessing about 60% are getting denied initially. And then at reconsideration, you've got 60 days to file an appeal. At reconsideration, you wait another 2 or 4 months. 90% of the time at reconsideration, they're denying somebody again. And then you wait in line for a hearing. It takes right now, well, recently out of West Des Moines, Iowa, they just hired a bunch of new judges within the past 6 to 8 months. Luckily, they got them in before the hiring freeze and whatnot. So I'm really glad that they got them in, because Iowa was running almost 2 years behind in getting people hearings. In fact, I had clients that were transferred from Iowa's hearing office to Kansas City's hearing office, and I had a whole bunch of hearings that were there. Well, we still did them from Iowa, but they're basically, it was done via Skype, and the judge was basically beamed in. And I do most of my hearings that way anyway, because if my client has problems with traveling and whatnot, I want to have their hearing as close to them as possible, and I've always done it that way. All right, so the hearing right now, the wait time, I'm guessing, is about 1.5 years, maybe a little longer. Then if you're denied a hearing, well, by the way, hearing results nationwide, about somewhere between 40 and 50%, more closer, I guess, to 44% are being approved at the hearing level. If you're denied at a hearing level, then we go to the Appeals Council, and the Appeals Council takes another 12 to 18 months. So it can take a long time to get through that. And then if you go through the Appeals Council, wow, 3 years maybe. And then most cases go to hearing, take at least 2 years. And then after the Appeals Council, you can go to federal court. And I don't even want to go there as far as telling you about the time frame. I am licensed in Iowa's federal courts and in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, but like I said, this PowerPoint and whatnot is not designed for the federal court analysis. But I tell you, by that time you're looking probably 5 to 6 years in by the time you get a result from federal court, which is just quite honestly sickening. It's terrible. All right, so how can an attorney help? Well, an attorney can help you understand why Social Security did what they did, and explain in detail what happens in appeals, and hunt down evidence that will help you, and make legal arguments to the judge at a hearing, and present the case at a hearing. RSH, like I said, that's what I usually do, is I get involved when somebody's been initially denied at the and then going through requesting reconsideration, and then going through the hearing process and through the Appeals Council. And yes, we do take cases into federal court. Do I take every case? No. Do I appeal every case beyond a judge's decision? No. I will tell you if I think you don't have a case, and and based on a judge's decision, I will tell you if I think you should refile. I would guide you to tell you what I think you should do by way of medical treatment, as far as from the legal standpoint, and how that would affect your case with Social Security. It is difficult to get approved for Social Security disability. Quite frankly, I try to help out as many people as I can. I've got a few folks here at RSH that help me with scheduling appointments, with helping gathering evidence, with helping me to talk to my clients, and I take as much time as I can to learn about you or about your loved one, because I believe that the better I know you, especially prior to hearing, the better chance we have with success in the end. Some of the things that I will talk to you about and ask you about, you might think, well, why does he want to know if I can make macaroni and cheese? Or why does he want to know, if I sleep on a board, or if I sleep in a bed, or what do I do? Well, I might ask those goofy questions now and again, and I just ask you to humor me. If you've been denied disability and you want me to try to help you, I promise you that if I take on your case, that I do the best I can. And that's ultimately what I what I can promise. I cannot promise a specific result. Nobody can. And if they do, they're lying to you. I can just tell you I do my best, and I hope that you've had, uh, you know, learned information here in doing the PowerPoint here with me, and I am open for questions. I think I've lasted the 30 minutes, and I've allotted the other 30 minutes for time on questions. So here we go.
Thank you, Cory. I'm going to go ahead and let people answer or go ahead and put in your questions. And as you guys are doing that, I just wanted to remind everybody that the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa is here. If you're ever in need of brain injury resources or information, our Neuro Resource Facilitation Program is designed to help connect individuals with brain injury along with their loved ones and the professionals that are serving them to the needed supports and services in the community. So if anybody on the line is having questions or would like that type of service from us, we'd be more than happy to connect you with any sort of resources you would need for Social Security or SSDI, and be able to help you connect to that. And we're always able to provide any sort of case consultations that you might need if you're a professional on the line today, if you're looking for time to get together to brainstorm ideas or services and supports to help someone you are serving. So I'll go ahead and see what kind of questions we have. We do have one from Lori. Let's see. Lori is wondering, what happens when a person has a terminal illness and they don't have a year to live? Is there an expedited program? So Cory, would you be able to speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. There is a program that Social Security has. It's called a compassionate allowance. If someone, and I'll tell you, I had experienced this recently. Unfortunately, I have a relative who was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I helped my relative to apply for disability, and they approved him within 2 weeks. He has, like in this case, stage 4 lung cancer that has not only in his lungs but also in his back. And just so you know, that when that happens, there is no fee in that case, because the person there is no back benefit if the person was recently diagnosed or whatnot. Believe it or not, I have had cases where my most egregious one that I heard of that I had was when I was at Iowa Legal Aid. I had a client who was in a coma, and he was denied the first time, and I appealed that, and said duh. But so yeah, there is a appeal process that can be expedited, and if you don't have the year to live, still I will take those calls from people, and I will tell them how to get this started if they have questions, and then I say try to apply on your own first if you can. If you don't have any family, friends, service providers that can help you, will I help? You're darn right I will. I do. I do cases on like that. If they don't have anyone that can help them, I have in the past done cases on a pro bono basis in cooperation with Iowa Legal Aid. So as I said, I worked there for 12 and a half, almost 13 years, and if somebody's having significant problems in getting the application done, sometimes I do those cases, like I said, on a case-by-case basis. I can do things volunteer, and so anyhow, but hopefully you wouldn't need an attorney with a terminal illness diagnosis. That's my hope. Okay. Anyway.
Thank you, Cory. Lori
Yeah.
had another question about, I think it's in relation to children receiving benefits. Would you be able to speak to that? Or maybe children who are 18, about to turn 19, any feedback you would have on that?
Yeah, there are different sets of rules that apply to children who are who would apply for what's called supplemental security income, SSI, child SSI, if the child does not have a parent who is disabled or retired. Then the child would have to apply or the parent would have to apply for SSI for the child, and they do count mom or dad's income, the household income, and they also take into account some child support if that's being ordered and or paid. They do take that into account in determining financial eligibility for SSI. SSI, like I said, is the needs-based program, and the most you can get is $733 a month on SSI, and the least you can get in order to be eligible for SSI is $1. And with SSI with children, do I do children's cases? I do some children's cases. I don't do all children's cases. It is a different set of rules for children's cases. If a child is on disability at the age of 17 and then turns 18, those new rules apply, and Social Security does a redetermination of whether or not that child would meet the rules and eligibility criteria for disability as an adult. And so if someone also along those lines has been receiving disability as a child, turns 18, and then Social Security does what they call a continuing disability review, or again, their code language, CDR. If they're doing that, what I do is I have the folks that call in contact Iowa Legal Aid, and then have them see if legal aid can assist with the continuing disability review. And depending upon my availability, and I may be able to assist in a case like that. Again, there may not be a fee for it if the person is still receiving their monthly benefit, but I do sometimes take those on. I can't take on a whole lot given my busy schedule as it is, but I do make room for some cases like that in my calendar.
All right, thank you, Cory. Let's see, we have a question from Monica. Let's see here. Alrighty, so it's a little bit longer, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it, and then we can talk about feedback afterwards. So Monica is saying that she works for an organization that provides residential services to individuals with disabilities. On occasion, we have families who are payees for their child. Because Medicaid pays for their services, any benefit above the $50 that is allowed to the individual is client participation, but the family does not provide the participation nor the $50 for what the child needs, which is clothing, haircuts, etc. As an organization, we apply to be payee, but because the parent does not want to give up being payee, Social Security allows the parent to continue to be payee. Is there any other resource that a provider can use to either be payee or receive the money from their parent? Do you have any feedback on that one, Cory?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Okay. First off, my initial thought is that my prior employer, Legal Aid, again, does take a look at cases like that. I would consider that a form of, whether it's dependent adult abuse or whether that is a form of failure to provide a certain amount of critical care to a child on the part of the payee, if they're not surrendering those payments as they're supposed to as being a payee. I mean, that isn't the way the process is supposed to work. If the payee is not providing the funds to the service providers like they're supposed to, then Social Security, there should be reports of that to Social Security, and if Social Security will not allow the service provider to become the payee, then there are other organizations out there that are private that do act as payee for an individual who is disabled. But I would also strongly urge, again, that in that type of situation, someone on behalf of the disabled person, whether it's a child or an adult, living in the facility, contact Iowa Legal Aid if they're in Iowa, or if they're not in Iowa, if they're in a surrounding state, to to complete an application specifically dealing with that person's rights being violated, because the disabled person should be able to get their hair cut. They should be able to have these extra things that are part of what they should be getting, because they have, all but $50 is provided to the facility. I understand that, or it's supposed to be provided to the facility. So, yeah, if they're not getting that money that they're supposed to be getting, that's just not right, obviously. And that I would urge a denial decision from Social Security is appealable by the person, by the individual, the disabled person, within 60 days of that denial decision. Any decision that Social Security makes in that regard. So there are appeal rights as well.
All right, thank you, Cory. So let's see if there's no more questions at this time. So I just want to thank everybody for being on today, and thank you, Cory. Do you have anything that you'd like to say before we wrap up? Anything in conclusion?
Well, in conclusion, I would just say that if you have friends or loved ones that have been denied disability, or if you are a service provider for someone who has been denied disability, just because they've been denied doesn't mean Social Security got it right, because unfortunately they don't get it right a lot of times. And you should, whether it's me or somebody else, in this regard, I'm saying, hey, contact somebody to get an opinion as to whether or not they should go forward. Do not give up. It is so important. Do not give up in trying to get these benefits if the person's unable to work due to any condition, whether it's a traumatic brain injury or what have you, because it is so important that for folks to have some sort of a safety net. And the SSD money, it was paid in by the person or their parents. If it's off their parents' work history, it does not adversely affect the parent. It doesn't lower their monthly benefits. It's only for the better if they get approved. And you're asking for something that you've paid in on for SSD. For SSI, it's a needs-based program meant to help folks who cannot otherwise help themselves. And if they can't, and they have the financial need, then they should be applying for it. And then that would open the door for them, even if if they only get $1 in SSI a month, that opens the door for Medicaid right now. Hopefully that all doesn't get changed with cuts in programs and whatnot that are out there. But it's really important that people don't give up. And whether or not you go with an attorney like me or some other attorney, quite frankly, it's a very personal decision that somebody makes, whether or not they want a lawyer to help them and who they pick if they do. I don't charge anybody anything if I lose. If you don't get approved, we write it all off. People don't get a bill. And I think that's the way it should be, because you're in no position to be able to pay anyway. And it's strictly a contingency fee based off of back pay. And so I really hope that folks don't give up, and that they do persevere and keep getting the health care that you need, no matter what. Whether you get a lawyer or not, you still need to go get the health care and that you need in order to be able to put forth a case to Social Security. So anyway, Thanks for your time, and I appreciate
Thank
the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Cory. This was such an informational webinar. It's something that we get a lot of questions on here at the Brain Injury Alliance. And it is a tricky topic, and it is complicated, so I'm glad that we were able to get this webinar today, and thank you for going through all the steps and helping it be more accessible and understandable for people that we serve. But thank you again, Cory, for being with us today, and thank you everyone for being on, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Thank you, Cory.